He killed 16 Chechen rebels single-handed.
Welcome to Culture Screen, where we analyze culture. In this episode, we are summarizing the 11th episode from Season 3 of the Sopranos series titled Pine Barrens. The episode first aired on May 6, 2001. In the beginning, Gloria pays the Stugats a visit for a secret affair with Tony and brings a late Christmas gift. When Gloria takes up the phone, Irina phones the boat, believing she dropped a piece of jewelry there, and quickly makes up an unconvincing narrative about being one of AJ's teachers. Tony goes along with the lie for a short while before revealing the truth. Tony's present is thrown into the bay by Gloria, who feels patronized since he didn't drop the pretense earlier. Tony ultimately reveals his involvement with Gloria in a session with Dr. Melfi and half-jokingly begs for guidance based on what Dr. Melfi may know about Gloria from previous sessions they have had. Silvio gets sick right before he was supposed to collect from Valerie, Tony's Russian mob buddy, Slava's subordinate. Tony calls Paulie and instructs him and Christopher to make collections in Silvio's place. Paulie arrives at Valerie's place, angry and aggressive, ridiculing and provoking Valerie. Paulie also feels underappreciated for being assigned this duty. Despite Christopher's efforts to de-escalate the situation, it worsens when Paulie purposefully destroys Valerie's universal remote, resulting in a brawl. Valerie proves to be a dangerous adversary, and Christopher and Paulie must team up to defeat him. They eventually take him to the ground, where Paulie strangles him with a lamp as Christopher clutches his legs. Paulie believes he crushed Valerie's windpipe and murdered him after he loses consciousness. Valerie's body is wrapped in a carpet and placed in the trunk, with the intention of burying him inside of the Pine Barrens. We also see Meadow is unwell and confined to her dorm room, where she is playing Scrabble with Jackie Jr., an activity that only shows Meadow just how dumb Jackie Jr. is. Meadow isn't up to it when he tries to be romantic with her. Jackie departs shortly after this. Later, he phones to cancel his intentions to see her again, and he is spotted putting on cologne. We then see Meadow's distrust beginning to grow. Before having another meeting in a hotel room, Gloria tries to make peace with Tony by sending him an apology card and a gift of a robe she bought in Morocco. A phone call from Paulie at a gas station as they are headed to the Pine Barrens interrupts them while they are together. Tony takes the precaution of taking the call in the bathroom. He also flushes the toilet several times to avoid any recordings, while Gloria remains in bed. Tony is informed about the issue by Paulie. We then see Tony is upset at the inconvenient timing of the altercation as he is about to meet with Slava. Gloria gets dressed to return to work after the phone call and complains to Tony about wasting water with his excessive toilet flushing. They make plans to eat at Gloria's that night, and Gloria offers to prepare roast beef for Tony. Chris advises fetching Roy Rogers on the way to Pine Barrens because he has not eaten yet, but Paulie can't wait to bury the body and be done with this entire ordeal. We soon realize that Valerie is actually not dead and awakens in the trunk. When Paulie and Christopher discover him alive, they drag him into the freezing woods where they make him dig his own grave. Moments later, Valerie swears that he will kill them both. Valerie waits for a moment where Paulie and Christopher become distracted while he is digging his grave. Valerie then smashes Chris in the head with the shovel he is using and kicks Paulie directly in the groin and runs off, leaving the two stunned and slightly injured. Paulie and Chris of course chase after him, and Paulie allegedly shoots Valerie in the head. Valerie, on the other hand, appears to regain his footing, and as they chase him, they discover that his footsteps just stop some meters ahead of where they last saw him, with no corpse in sight. The viewer's perspective is from the top of the trees, suggesting Valerie climbed the tree to escape the two wise guys. Remember, I am summarizing the entire series, so subscribe and click on the notification bell to be reminded when I upload the next episode. Also, let me know what your favorite TV show and movie is so I can summarize it in the future. Doing these two things helps my channel out tremendously. I thank you for your support. Later on, Tony loses his cool when he receives yet another call from Paulie at home and their signal is failing. Tony asks Paulie if they handled the job. Tony then goes on to make his scheduled visit to Slava when the call abruptly stops. Slava feels unconcerned about the situation, but recalls that Valerie, an old military buddy and dear friend, was a Russian Interior Ministry operative who single-handedly executed 16 Chechen insurgents. Tony instantly conveys this information to Paulie over the phone, but Paulie mishears him due to the weak signal, allegedly mistaking Valerie for an interior decorator who killed 16 Czechoslovakians. After trying to retrace their ways, Paulie and Christopher become lost in the woods themselves. They believe they they hear a sound that could be Valerie in the bush and they pursue it, but they accidentally murder a deer in the process. Along the way, Paulie loses his shoe and falls. They find an empty truck to sleep in after being completely lost and ill-equipped to care for themselves. When Jackie Jr. doesn't call Meadow as promised, Meadow tells a friend about her suspicions, who pushes her to look into it. They keep an eye on Jackie's place and catch him exiting with another woman. Meadow approaches Jackie there and breaks up with him in an emotional manner, while her friend intensifies the situation. The other woman yells insults at Meadow as she drives away. Jackie begs at her to stop, fearful of the repercussions if she were to offend Tony Soprano's daughter. Meadow later checks into a university hospital where her roommate Caitlin consoles her over the breakup, despite the fact that she appears to be recovering from her emotional troubles. Carmela's parents arrive at the Sopranos' house as Tony's dinner meeting with Gloria approaches, revealing that her dad was diagnosed with glaucoma. Tony offers to remain with them for some coffee, but he arrives late at Gloria's home. Gloria is of course upset, but Tony is able to soothe her. However, Tony receives yet another follow-up call from Paulie, informing Tony that he and Chris are now lost in the middle of the woods, delirious, and that they need to be rescued. Tony reluctantly agrees, but Gloria loses her cool and tosses the roast beef at Tony's head as he walks out the door. Tony laughs it off after a stressful moment and heads to Junior's, where he meets Bobby because he is an experienced outdoorsman, to drive to the woods. Moments later, Tony bursts out laughing as soon as he sees Bobby dressed in hunting clothes. We see Bobby is clearly offended and annoyed. During the phone chat with Tony, Christopher, who is suffering from a suspected concussion from being hit in the head with a shovel, becomes skeptical of Paulie when he hears him exaggerating Chris's injury and pinning the blame for what happened with Valerie on him. Chris then decides to eat wild berries from a nearby bush after seeing Paulie hiding Tic Tacs he'd found, but Paulie tries to dissuade him, stating that the berries could be deadly. Later, Chris urinates outside Paulie's passenger side window. Chris dismisses Paulie after he rants at him, and the two have a heated encounter in which Christopher then accuses Paulie of plotting a hit on him. Chris draws a gun out on Paulie, even though Paulie says he is a captain and in command. Chris says rank does not really matter, since at this point they are just two men stranded in the middle of the woods. Paulie then asks Chris if he would actually go as far as murdering him. Chris says yes and immediately breaks out in laughter. After that, the two return to their vehicle to sleep. Tony says sorry to Bobby for laughing at his outfit earlier on in their route. We see Tony and Bobby become even closer as a result of this ride. Bobby tells Tony that Junior really does care about Tony and is always talking about him. When they arrive where Paulie and Chris were, according to Paulie's instructions, Bobby and Tony see there is no vehicle there. Tony yells out for them but receives no response, so they decide to continue their search the following morning. The next day, Paulie constructs a temporary shoe out of a piece of carpeting from the truck, and he and Christopher set out in a straight course until they reach civilization. We see Paulie's carpet shoe comes completely undone, he loses his cool and fires a pistol shot at it. Tony and Bobby, who are still exploring the woods in vain, hear that gunshot, and Bobby responds by firing his rifle also. The two duos finally find each other and return to Bobby's car using this shooting strategy. Tony suggests that searching for Valerie once more could be a good idea, but Paulie declines immediately. Before they go, Tony assures Paulie that because of his refusal to search and find Valerie, if he were to reappear, he would have to make himself responsible for him. Tony talks about everything being so difficult in his life when he attends his next session with Dr. Melfi. He brings up his fight with Gloria. Melfi reminds Tony that he has had a history with tough women. Melfi then asks Tony if he can recollect an important female figure in his past who was controlling and difficult to satisfy outside of his gumas. Tony pauses for a moment and says no. That was episode number 37, titled Pine Barrens. To watch the next or previous episode summary, click on the link in the description or at the end of this video. If you enjoyed this summary, consider clicking like, as it goes a long way toward helping me grow this channel. I'll see you on the next episode. Goodbye.
He killed 16 Czechoslovakians.
We upload new videos every week, so subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to hit the like button as well. Click the notification bell to be notified of when we upload these videos. See you on the next episode of Culture Screen.